Can I help you, son?
Father, I did something tonight. Something I can't undo.
A soldier came in after midnight. His confession still haunts me. I remember the sound of his boots on the stone floor. Heavy, deliberate. The kind of footsteps that carry weight beyond the body. It was late October, nearly 2 in the morning, and I'd been about to lock the church doors when I heard them. Slow, uneven, like each step required a decision. I turned, and there he stood in the doorway, backlit by the street lamp outside, his silhouette sharp against the fog rolling in from the hills. He didn't say anything at first. Just stood there breathing hard like he'd been running, or hiding. I need you to understand something before I go any further. The confessions I hear, they're not always what people think. They're not neat little admissions of lying or cursing or missing mass. Sometimes they're hurricanes. Sometimes they're screams wrapped in whispers. And sometimes, like that night, they're doors that, once opened, never fully close again. If you found your way here, I want you to stay. Subscribe to this channel. Walk with me through these stories. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just his confession. It's a piece of the truth we all carry but rarely speak aloud. I motioned him toward the confessional booth. He hesitated. His eyes scanned the empty pews, the votive candles flickering in their red glass holders, the crucifix hanging above the altar. Then he walked forward. No words, just that same heavy rhythm of boots on stone. When he sat down, I could hear him on the other side of the screen, his breath shallow, uneven, catching in his throat like something was lodged there. I waited. I always wait. Confession isn't about rushing. It's about letting the silence do its work until the person is ready to break it. Finally, he spoke. "Father," he said, and his voice was younger than I expected. Mid-20s, maybe. "I don't know if I believe in this anymore. In God, in forgiveness, in any of it." I told him that was all right, that he didn't need to believe to talk, that sometimes talking is the first step back toward belief, or at least toward peace. He made a sound, half laugh, half sob. It rattled in his chest. "Peace," he repeated. "Yeah, I don't think I get to have that." I asked him why. He didn't answer right away. I could hear him shifting in the booth, his hands rubbing together, the fabric of his jacket creaking. Then he said, "I just got back 3 weeks ago from overseas, and I thought coming home would fix it. I thought seeing my family, sleeping in my own bed, eating real food, I thought all of that would make it stop. But it hasn't. It's worse." I asked him what was worse. "The dreams," he said. "No, not dreams, memories. They come at night. They come during the day. I'll be at the grocery store and I'll hear a car backfire and suddenly I'm back there. I'll smell diesel and I'm back there. I'll see a kid running down the street and I'm back there." "Back where?" I asked. He paused, a long pause, the kind that makes you wonder if the person on the other side has left, even though you know they're still sitting there. "Kandahar," he finally said. "Southern Afghanistan. We were stationed outside a village supposed to be a peacekeeping mission. Hearts and minds, they called it. We handed out school supplies. We fixed wells. We played soccer with the kids, and the whole time we knew. We knew some of those villagers were feeding intel to the Taliban. We knew some of those kids would grow up to plant IEDs, but we smiled. We followed orders. We did our jobs." He stopped. I waited. "There was this one kid," he continued, and his voice cracked. "Maybe 10 years old, 11, I don't know. He used to hang around our base. We called him Sonny because he had this smile that it lit up everything, you know. He'd bring us tea. He'd ask us to teach him English. He'd draw pictures for us. Stick figures holding hands, stuff like that. My buddy Martinez, he loved that kid. Used to give him candy bars. Used to joke that when the deployment was over, he'd sponsor Sonny to come to the States, get him into a good school." I could hear him crying now. Quiet, controlled, the kind of crying men do when they've been trained not to. "One morning," he said, "Martinez was walking the perimeter, standard patrol. Sonny ran up to him, smiling, always smiling. He had something in his hands, a package, wrapped in cloth. Martinez thought it was a gift. He smiled back. He reached out to take it. I closed my eyes. I knew where this was going. It was a bomb, the soldier said. A small one, homemade, but enough too. He couldn't finish. He didn't need to. Martinez died instantly, he said after a moment. Sonny too. The blast, he made a sound like air escaping. There was nothing left of either of them, nothing I could recognize. I sat there in the darkness of my side of the booth, my hands folded, my heart heavy. I'd heard confessions about infidelity, theft, violence, rage. But this was different. This was the kind of confession that doesn't ask for forgiveness. It asks for permission to keep living. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be," he said. "It gets worse." I didn't know how it could, but I should have known. I should have known that when someone says it gets worse, you brace yourself, because it always does. "We found out later," he said, "that Sonny didn't know. He didn't know what was in the package. The Taliban used him. They told him it was a gift for the soldiers. They told him we'd be happy. He thought he was doing something good." I heard him slam his fist against the wall of the booth. Once, twice. "He thought he was doing something good," he repeated, his voice breaking apart. "And I hated him, Father. When it happened, I hated him. I wanted to dig him out of the ground and kill him again. I wanted to find whoever gave him that package and make them suffer. And I did. I did make them suffer." He stopped. The silence was suffocating. "What did you do?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. "We got intel," he said. 3 days later, the guy who made the bomb, his name was Rashid, mid-30s, lived in the village. We rolled in at dawn, kicked in his door. He was there with his wife and 2 kids, a boy and a girl. The boy was about Sonny's age. I felt my stomach tighten. "We dragged Rashid outside," the soldier said. "We zip-tied his hands, we made him kneel, and I stood over him. I had my rifle. I could have ended it, clean, quick. Orders were to bring him in for questioning, but I could have ended it right there. No one would have said anything." "But you didn't," I said. "No," he said. "I didn't. I wanted to. God, I wanted to, but I looked at his kids. They were standing in the doorway crying, screaming, and I thought of Sonny, I thought of his smile, and I couldn't do it." He exhaled, long and shaky. "So we brought him in, handed him over to the intelligence guys, and 2 weeks later he was released. Insufficient evidence, they said. He walked out, went back to his village, back to his family, and Martinez is still dead. Sonny is still dead, and I'm still here." I didn't know what to say. There are moments in the confessional where words feel useless, where the weight of what's been shared is too great for platitudes or scripture. So I just sat there, and I listened. "I think about it every day," the soldier said. "I think about how I should have pulled that trigger, how maybe if I had, it would have evened things out, like some kind of cosmic balance. Martinez for Rashid, but I didn't. And now I don't know if I'm a coward or if I did the right thing, and I don't know which one is worse." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Do you think God forgives people like me?" I thought carefully before I answered, because this wasn't a question about theology. It was a question about whether his life still had value, whether he was still human. "I think," I said slowly, "that God doesn't ask us to carry burdens we were never meant to carry. War puts things on people, things that should never be there. Guilt, rage, impossible choices, and I think God understands that. I think he grieves with you." "But does he forgive me?" the soldier pressed. "For what?" I asked. "For surviving, for hating, for hesitating. None of those are sins, they're wounds." He made that sound again, the broken laugh. I don't feel forgiven, he said. I feel like I'm drowning. Then maybe, I said, forgiveness isn't something you receive all at once. Maybe it's something you learn to breathe, little by little, day by day. He didn't respond. The booth was silent except for the faint sound of his breathing. And then, after what felt like an eternity, he stood up. "Thank you, Father," he said. "I don't know if it helped, but thank you." I heard his boots again, that same heavy rhythm, walking toward the door, and then he was gone. The church was silent. The candles flickered, and I sat there in the darkness, wondering if I'd said the right thing, wondering if there even was a right thing to say. I didn't see him again for a long time, but his confession stayed with me. It burrowed into my thoughts. It followed me into my own prayers, and eventually I realized something. He didn't come to me that night looking for absolution. He came looking for permission to keep living, and I don't know if I gave him that. I hope I did, but I'll never know for sure. Because that's the thing about confessions. You hear the beginning. Sometimes you hear the middle, but you almost never hear the end. 3 months passed before I saw him again. It was a Sunday morning, late January, the kind of cold that seeps through the stone walls and settles into your bones no matter how many layers you wear. I was preparing for the 9 o'clock Mass, laying out the vestments, filling the cruets with water and wine, when I heard the heavy oak door at the back of the church creak open. I turned, expecting to see one of the early arrivals, Mrs. Chen, who always came 40 minutes ahead to pray the rosary, or Mr. Kowalski, who liked to sit in the last pew and read the bulletin before anyone else arrived. But it was him, the soldier. He looked different, thinner. His face was gaunt, shadowed under the eyes like he hadn't slept in weeks. He wore the same jacket, olive green, military issue, but it hung looser on his frame now. He stood in the doorway, not moving, just looking at the altar, at the crucifix, at the votive candles burning in their quiet rows. I didn't approach him right away. Something told me to let him come to me. So I continued my preparations, moving slowly, deliberately, giving him space to decide what he needed. After a few minutes, he walked down the center aisle, not toward the confessional this time, toward the front pew. He sat down heavily, like his legs had given out, and he dropped his head into his hands. I finished setting up and walked over. I sat down beside him, not too close, just close enough that he'd know I was there if he wanted to talk. We sat in silence for a long time. The church was still empty. Outside, I could hear the wind rattling the bare branches of the oak trees in the courtyard. Inside, there was only the faint hiss of the radiators and the occasional pop of the votive candles. Finally, he spoke. "I tried to do what you said," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "About breathing, about forgiveness being something you learn. I tried. I waited. It didn't work," he said. I asked him what happened. He lifted his head. His eyes were red-rimmed, glassy. He looked at the crucifix hanging above the altar, and for a moment I thought he might get up and leave. But he didn't. "I started seeing a therapist," he said. "VA set me up with someone, a woman, Dr. Brennan. She specializes in PTSD, combat trauma, all that. I went twice a week for 2 months, talked about everything, about Martinez, about Sonny, about Rashid, about the dreams. She gave me exercises, breathing techniques, meditation. She told me to write letters to the people I lost, to say the things I never got to say." He paused. "So I did," he continued. "I wrote to Martinez, told him I was sorry, told him I missed him, told him his daughter, she's 3 now, looks just like him. I wrote to Sonny, told him I didn't blame him, told him I wished I could have saved him, and I wrote to Rashid." That caught me off guard. "To Rashid?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah," he said. "Dr. Brennan thought it might help. She said holding onto rage was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So I wrote to him, and you know what I said? I shook my head. I told him I understood, the soldier said, his voice thick. I told him that if someone had killed my family, I'd probably do the same thing he did. I'd probably build bombs too. I'd probably send kids with packages if it meant getting revenge. I told him I didn't forgive him, but I understood him. He laughed bitterly. Dr. Brennan said that was progress. She said understanding was the first step toward letting go. But Father, it didn't feel like progress. It felt like I was betraying Martinez all over again. Like I was saying what he went through didn't matter. That's not what you were saying, I told him gently. Wasn't it? He shot back. Because that's what it feels like. It feels like every time I try to move forward, I'm stepping on his grave, like I'm leaving him behind. I thought about that, about the guilt survivors carry, about how grief and loyalty can twist together until you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. Moving forward doesn't mean forgetting, I said. It doesn't mean what happened to Martinez doesn't matter. It means you're choosing to keep living in a way that honors him. And I think he'd want that for you. The soldier stared at me for a long moment. Then he looked away. Maybe, he said quietly, but there's something else, something I didn't tell you before. My chest tightened. I'd learned over the years that when someone says there's something else, it's usually the thing they came to confess in the first place. Everything before is just preamble, setup. The real weight is always saved for last. What is it? I asked. He took a deep breath. His hands were shaking. The night before Martinez died, he said, we had a fight, a stupid fight. He wanted to request a transfer, said he was tired of being in the field, said he wanted to do something safer. Admin work, training, something that would get him home in one piece. And I told him he was being a coward. I told him we all wanted to go home, but we had a job to do. I told him if he left, he'd be letting the team down. He stopped, his jaw clenched. He didn't put in the request, the soldier continued. He stayed, and the next morning he was dead. And I keep thinking that if I hadn't said those things, if I just told him to do what he need, to do, he'd still be alive. He'd be home with his wife and his daughter. He'd be safe. Tears were streaming down his face now, and he made no effort to wipe them away. So you see, Father, he said, it's not just about what happened to him. It's about what I did or didn't do. It's about the fact that I could have saved him and I didn't because I was too proud, too stupid, too. Stop, I said firmly. He looked at me, startled. You didn't kill him, I said. You didn't hand him that bomb. You didn't put him on that patrol. You were his friend. You said something in a moment of frustration. That's not the same as causing his death. But if I interrupted. If is the cruelest word in the English language. If you'd said something different, if you'd been there, if you'd known. You can torture yourself with ifs for the rest of your life and it won't change what happened. It'll only destroy you. He shook his head, his hands gripping the edge of the pew so hard his knuckles went white. I don't know how to let it go, he said. I don't know how to stop replaying it over and over, every day, every night. Then don't, I said. He looked at me, confused. Don't try to let it go, I continued. Not yet. Just try to carry it differently. Right now, you're carrying it like a punishment, like something you deserve to suffer under. But what if you carried it like a responsibility instead? What if you honored Martinez by living the life he didn't get to live, by being there for his family, by doing the things he would have done? The soldier was silent. I could see the gears turning in his mind, trying to reconcile what I was saying with the narrative he'd built for himself. His wife, he said slowly, I haven't talked to her since the funeral. I didn't know what to say." "Then maybe start there," I suggested. "Not with words, just with presence. Show up. Let her know she's not alone. Let her daughter know her father mattered." He nodded slowly, like he was testing the idea, seeing if it fit. "Okay," he said. "Okay, I can try that." We sat there for a while longer. The church began to fill with parishioners arriving for Mass. The soldier stood, wiped his face with the back of his hand, and looked at me. "Thank you, Father," he said, again. "Any time," I told him, and I meant it. He turned to leave, but then stopped. He looked back at me, and there was something different in his eyes. Not peace exactly, but maybe the faintest hint of hope. "Do you think," he asked, "that God puts people in our lives for a reason? Like, do you think I was supposed to meet you that night?" I smiled. "I think," I said, "that God works in ways we don't always understand. But yes, I think you were supposed to be here. And I think you're supposed to keep coming back, as many times as you need." He nodded, and then he left. I watched him go, and I felt something shift in my chest. A small thing, fragile, but there. I prayed for him during Mass that morning. I prayed for Martinez, for Sonny, for Rashid and his family, for all the people caught in the machinery of war who never asked to be there. And I prayed that the soldier would find his way, not to forgetting, not to erasure, but to something like peace. Because that's all any of us can hope for, really. Not to undo the past, but to find a way to live with it. April came with rain. Heavy, relentless rain that turned the church courtyard into a patchwork of puddles and made the stained glass windows weep with condensation. I was in my office, working on the bulletin for the following Sunday, when I heard the knock on my door. 3 sharp raps, precise, almost military. I knew who it was before I opened it. He stood in the hallway, soaked through. Water dripped from his hair, his jacket pooled at his feet on the tile floor. But he was smiling, not a big smile, not the kind that reaches your eyes, but a smile nonetheless. "Father," he said, "do you have a minute?" I ushered him in, grabbed a towel from the small bathroom adjacent to my office, and handed it to him. He dried his face and hair, but made no effort to take off the wet jacket. He sat down in the chair across from my desk, and I sat down too, waiting. "I did it," he said. "What you told me to do. I reached out to Martinez's wife. Angela, I called her, asked if I could visit. And I prompted. She said yes," he continued. "So I drove down to San Diego last weekend. She lives in a small apartment near the naval base. She's working 2 jobs now, waitressing during the day, cleaning offices at night. Her mom helps with the daughter, Lucia. That's her name." He paused, and something softened in his face. "Lucia's 4 now," he said. "She's got Martinez's eyes, his smile. Angela showed me pictures of him, pictures I'd never seen before. Him holding Lucia when she was born, him in his dress uniform at their wedding, him teaching her to walk, and we talked for hours about him, about the stupid jokes he used to make, about how he couldn't cook to save his life but he'd try anyway, about how much he loved them." His voice cracked slightly, but he pushed through. "And then Angela said something that I wasn't expecting. She said she didn't blame me. She said Martinez told her about our fight. He called her that night. He told her I was right, that he had a job to do, that he couldn't leave his guys behind. She said he respected me for saying what I said, that it reminded him why he was there in the first place." The soldier looked at me, his eyes glistening. "She thanked me, Father. She thanked me for being his friend, for pushing him to be the man he wanted to be. And I didn't know what to say, because I still feel like I killed him. But hearing her say that, it was like this tiny crack opened up in the wall I'd built. Like maybe, just maybe, I could start to believe I wasn't the villain in this story. I leaned forward. "You were never the villain," I said quietly. "You were his brother, and brothers argue, they push each other, they challenge each other. That's not betrayal, that's love." He nodded slowly, absorbing the words like they were a foreign language he was just beginning to understand. "There's more," he said. I waited. "Before I left," he continued, "Lucia came up to me. She was holding this little stuffed bear. Martinez bought it for her before he deployed. She sleeps with it every night. And she looked up at me and said, 'Are you my daddy's friend?' And I told her yes. And she said, 'Good. Mommy says daddy's friends are my friends too.' And then she hugged me." His voice broke completely now. He covered his face with his hands and his shoulders shook. I let him cry. There was nothing to say, nothing that would make it better or easier. So I just sat there present, the way I'd learned to be in moments like this. When he finally composed himself, he looked at me with raw, exhausted eyes. "I don't think I've cried like that since the funeral," he said. "I don't think I've let myself." But holding Lucia, feeling her little arms around me, it was like everything I'd been holding in just broke open. And for the first time since Martinez died, I didn't feel angry. I just felt sad, deeply, unbearably sad, but clean, like grief instead of rage. "That's healing," I told him. "It doesn't feel like it, but it is." He wiped his eyes with the towel and took a shaky breath. "Angela asked me to stay in touch," he said. "She asked if I'd come visit again, maybe take Lucia to the park sometime. She said it would mean a lot to her, to have someone around who knew Martinez, who could tell Lucia stories about her dad." "And what did you say?" I asked. "I said yes," he replied. "I said I'd come back next month, and the month after that, for as long as she'd let me." I smiled. "That's good," I said. "That's really good." But there was something else in his expression, something unresolved. I could see it in the way his jaw tightened, the way his hands gripped the armrests of the chair. "What is it?" I asked. He hesitated. Then he said, "I need to tell you something else. Something I haven't told anyone, not Dr. Brennan, not Angela, no one." I nodded, giving him permission to continue. "After I got back from San Diego," he said, "I started thinking about Sonny again, about his family. I started wondering what happened to them, if they were okay, if they even survived after everything that went down in their village. So I did some digging. I reached out to a guy I served with who's still over there, working as a contractor. I asked him to find out what he could." He paused, and I prompted gently. "Sonny's mother is still alive," he said. "She's living in a refugee camp in Pakistan. She fled Afghanistan 2 years ago. She lost her husband in a drone strike. She lost Sonny to that bomb. And she lost her daughter, Sonny's sister, to illness in the camp. She's alone, completely alone." My heart sank. "I found out her name," the soldier continued. "Amina, and I found out there's a way to contact her. Through an NGO that works in the camps. They can deliver messages, letters, even money if you want to send it." He looked at me, and I could see the question forming before he even asked it. "Do you think I should reach out to her?" he said. "Do you think I should tell her I don't know, that I knew Sonny, that I'm sorry, that I think about him every day?" I thought carefully before answering. "What do you hope to accomplish by reaching out?" I asked. He frowned, considering. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe I just want her to know that her son mattered, that he wasn't just another casualty, that someone remembers him, someone grieves him." "And do you think that would bring her comfort?" I asked. "Or would it reopen wounds she's trying to survive?" He looked stricken. "I don't know," he said again. "That's why I'm asking you." I sighed. I can't answer that for you, I said. I don't know Amina, I Dawn. T know what she needs, but I can tell you this, if you reach out, do it for her, not for yourself. Don't do it to ease your own guilt. Do it because you genuinely believe it will help her, and be prepared for the possibility that it won't, that she might not respond, or that she might respond with anger, with blame. Are you ready for that? He sat with that for a long moment. I think so, he said. I think I have to try, even if it doesn't help her, even if it makes things worse. I have to try. I understood. Sometimes the trying is the point. Sometimes the act of reaching out, of making the effort, is the only way forward, even if it leads nowhere. Then write to her, I said. But write carefully, write with humility, and be honest. Don't hide from what happened, don't sugarcoat it, but don't wallow in it either. Just tell her the truth, that you knew her son, that he mattered, that you're sorry. He nodded. Okay, he said, I'll do it. I'll write to her tonight. He stood to leave, but I stopped him. One more thing, I said. Before you send it, bring it to me. Let me read it, not to censor you, just to make sure you're saying what you actually mean to say. Sometimes when we're in the thick of our own pain, we can't see how our words might land on someone else. He smiled, a real smile this time. Yeah, he said. Okay, I'll do that. He left and I sat there in my office, listening to the rain hammer against the window. I thought about Amina, about Sonny, about the impossibly tangled web of grief and guilt and loss that war leaves in its wake. I thought about how one bomb, one moment, one terrible decision can ripple outward and touch so many lives. And I prayed. I prayed for the soldier. I prayed for Amina. I prayed for all of us, stumbling through the dark, trying to find our way back to something resembling light. 2 days later, he returned. He had an envelope in his hand, plain, white, unsealed. I wrote it, he said, handing it to me. I'd like you to read it. I opened the envelope and pulled out the letter. It was handwritten, 2 pages. His handwriting was surprisingly neat, careful, like he'd labored over every word. It began, Dear Amina, my name is Daniel. I was a soldier in Afghanistan. I knew your son, Sonny. I don't expect you to remember me or even to care, but I wanted you to know that Sonny was special. He had a smile that could light up the darkest days. He was kind, he was brave, and he is not forgotten. I continued reading. The letter was simple, honest. It didn't shy away from the truth that Sonny had died carrying a bomb, that he'd been used, that the soldier had been there when it happened. But it also didn't dwell on the horror. It focused on who Sonny was, on the moments of light, on the small, human connections that had existed in the midst of chaos. It ended. I don't know if this letter will bring you comfort or pain, maybe both, but I wanted you to know that your son's life mattered. He mattered to me, and I carry him with me every day. I'm sorry for everything you've lost. I'm sorry for the world that took him from you, and I hope, wherever you are, you find peace. With deepest respect, Daniel. I folded the letter carefully and handed it back to him. It's perfect, I said. Send it. He nodded, his eyes wet again. Thank you, Father, he said, for everything. You don't need to thank me, I replied. You're doing the work. I'm just here to witness it. He left, and I sat there alone again, hoping, praying that his words would reach Amina, that they would offer her something, anything, even if it was just the knowledge that her son had been loved. Summer arrived quietly. The rain gave way to long, warm days. The courtyard bloomed with wildflowers that Mrs. Chen had planted years ago and still tended with devoted care. The church felt lighter somehow, filled with golden afternoon sun that poured through the stained glass and painted the pews in shades of blue and crimson and gold. I didn't see Daniel for nearly 6 weeks. I thought about him often, wondered if he'd sent the letter, wondered if Amina had responded, wondered if he was still visiting Angela and Lucia, still doing the work of healing. But I'd learned long ago not to chase after the people who came through these doors. They returned when they were ready, or they didn't. Either way, all I could do was wait and pray. It was late June when he came back. I was hearing confessions on a Saturday afternoon. The usual parade of souls, teenagers confessing minor rebellions, elderly parishioners unburdening decades-old regrets, young parents overwhelmed by the weight of raising children in a broken world. And then I heard those boots, that familiar rhythm on the stone floor. He didn't wait for the confessional this time. He knocked on the screen. "Father," he said, "it's me, Daniel." "I know," I replied. "Come sit." He settled into the booth and I could hear him breathing, steady, calmer than before. "She wrote back," he said. My heart leapt. "Amina?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "It took almost 2 months. The NGO said mail moves slowly in the camps, but she wrote back, and Father," his voice caught. "Her letter, I don't even know how to describe it." "Tell me," I said gently. He took a breath. "She thanked me," he said. "She thanked me for remembering Sonny. She said most people have forgotten. That in the camp, no one talks about the dead anymore because there are too many of them. But she thinks about him every day. She dreams about him. She said she still hears his laugh sometimes in the wind, in the voices of other children playing." He paused. And then she said something that broke me open all over again. She said, "I do not blame you, Daniel. You did not make this war. You did not put the bomb in my son's hands. You were just a boy yourself, far from home, doing what you were told. We are all victims of the same evil, and I forgive you, even though there is nothing to forgive." I closed my eyes, letting the weight of those words settle into the space between us. "She forgives me," Daniel repeated, his voice thick with emotion. "She forgives me, Father, and I didn't even know I needed her forgiveness until I had it. I thought it was Martinez I needed forgiveness from. I thought it was God, but it was her. It was Sonny's mother, and she gave it to me freely, without hesitation, without conditions." "That's grace," I said quietly. "That's what grace looks like." "I wrote her back," Daniel continued. "I asked if there was anything I could do for her, anything at all. I told her I'd send money, I'd help her relocate, I'd sponsor her if she wanted to come to the States, anything." "And what did she say?" I asked. "She hasn't responded yet," he said. "But I don't need her to. Just knowing she's out there, that she's alive, that she's surviving, it's enough. It has to be enough." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Daniel shifted, and I could hear something change in his tone, something heavier. "There's something else I need to tell you," he said. Here it was again, the something else, the deeper layer. "I'm listening," I said. "I tracked down Rashid," Daniel said. My blood went cold. "You what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I found him," Daniel said, "through the same contractor buddy who helped me find Amina. He's still in Afghanistan, still in the same village. And I needed to know. I needed to know if he was still making bombs, still recruiting kids, still killing people." And I managed. "He's not," Daniel said. "He's a shopkeeper now, runs a small store, sells grain and cloth and tools. My buddy talked to some locals. They said Rashid changed after we detained him, that he stopped working with the Taliban, that he just wants to live quietly and provide for his family." I didn't know what to say. "I thought I'd feel something," Daniel continued. "Rage, vindication, relief, something, but I felt empty, like learning that didn't change anything. Martinez is still gone, Sonny is still gone, and Rashid is just living. The same way I'm trying to live. The same way Amina is trying to live. We're all just surviving the aftermath of something none of us fully controlled. He exhaled slowly. Dr. Brennan says that's acceptance, he said. She says I'm finally accepting that there are no neat endings, no satisfying resolutions, just people doing the best they can with the pieces they have left. And maybe she's right. Maybe that's all this is, acceptance. Do you feel at peace with that? I asked. He thought for a long moment. No, he said honestly, but I feel less at war with it, and maybe that's the same thing. Maybe peace isn't the absence of conflict. Maybe it's just the moment when you stop fighting yourself. I smiled, even though he couldn't see me. I think you might be right, I said. He stood then, preparing to leave. But before he did, he said one more thing. I'm going back, he said. Back where? I asked, though I already knew. Afghanistan, he said. Not as a soldier, as a civilian. There's a nonprofit that builds schools in conflict zones. They're looking for people with military experience. People who know the terrain, the culture, the language. I applied. They accepted me. I leave in September. My heart clenched. Daniel, I said carefully, are you sure? After everything you've been through? I'm sure, he interrupted. I need to go back, Father, not to fight, not to destroy, but to build, to do something that matters, to turn all this pain into something good. I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to live with myself, by going back and trying to fix even a small part of what was broken. I understood. I didn't like it. I worried for him, but I understood. Then I'll pray for you, I said. Every day, I'll pray that you find what you're looking for, and I'll pray that you come home safe. Thank you, Father, he said. I'll write to you, let you know how it goes. Please do, I said. He left the booth. I heard his boots one last time, walking toward the door, and then he was gone. The church fell silent except for the distant hum of traffic outside and the soft whisper of the votive candles burning in their alcoves. I sat there for a long time after he left. I thought about his journey, about how far he'd come from that first night when he stumbled into the church, drowning in guilt and rage, about how he'd found forgiveness in the most unexpected places, from a widow, from a grieving mother, from himself. And now he was returning to the place that had broken him, not for revenge, but for redemption. I prayed for him that night. I prayed for his safety. I prayed that he'd find the peace he was searching for. And I prayed that his story, wherever it led, would be one of healing. Because that's what confession is really about. Not just the unburdening of guilt, but the slow, painful, beautiful process of becoming whole again. September came and went. Daniel sent me a letter in early October, postmarked from Kabul. The envelope was thin, creased from its long journey, covered in stamps I didn't recognize. I opened it carefully, unfolding the single sheet of paper inside. Father John, I made it, I'm here. It's strange being back. Everything looks the same, but it feels completely different. Maybe because I'm different. I'm not carrying a rifle anymore. I'm carrying textbooks and construction plans. I'm not scanning rooftops for threats. I'm measuring foundations for classrooms. The nonprofit placed me in a village about 40 miles north of Kandahar. Not the same village where Sonny died, but close enough that the landscape feels familiar. The mountains, the dust, the way the light hits everything at sunset. It all comes back in waves. We're building a school for girls. Can you believe that? In a place where the Taliban used to burn schools, we're building one. Brick by brick. The locals are helping. At first they were suspicious, another American coming to tell them what to do. But when they realized I spoke some Pashto, when they saw I was willing to work alongside them, things changed. Yesterday, an old man named Hamid brought me tea while we were mixing cement. He told me his granddaughter will attend this school. He said it with tears in his eyes. I think about Martinez every day. I think about what he'd say if he could see me now. I think he'd laugh. He'd make some joke about me trading my rifle for a shovel, but I also think he'd be proud. At least, I hope he would be. I'll write again soon. Pray for us. Daniel. I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer alongside the few other letters I'd kept over the years, the ones that mattered, the ones that marked turning points in people's lives. I prayed for him that night as I'd promised, and then I waited. The next letter came in December. Father John, the school is nearly finished. We're painting the walls now. Bright colors, yellow and blue and green. The children from the village come by every day to watch. They peek through the windows, trying to imagine what it will be like inside. Some of them have never been to school before. Some of them don't even know how to hold a pencil. There's a boy who reminds me of Sonny. His name is Tarek, same age Sonny would have been if he'd lived. Same bright eyes, same fearless curiosity. He follows me around the construction site asking questions in broken English. What is this? Why you do that? When's school open? I try to answer him, but sometimes I have to stop and walk away because it hurts too much. Because I look at him and I see Sonny. And I think about all the things Sonny never got to do, never got to learn, never got to become. But then I remind myself why I'm here. I'm here so that Tarek gets those chances, so he gets to grow up, so he gets to become whoever he's supposed to be. Angela sent me pictures of Lucia. She's in kindergarten now. She drew me a picture of her daddy. It's just stick figures, but she labeled them Daddy and Mommy and me and Uncle Daniel. Uncle Daniel. She calls me that now. I never asked her to. She just started doing it on her own. It makes me feel like I'm part of something, like I'm not just wandering anymore. Christmas is coming. It won't feel like Christmas here, but I'll find a way to mark it. Maybe I'll teach Tarek about it. Maybe we'll sing a carol while we paint. Keep praying, Father. I need it. Daniel. I did keep praying. Every morning, every night. His name became part of my daily rhythm, woven into my conversations with God as naturally as breathing. The third letter arrived in March. Father John. The school opened last month. 63 girls enrolled on the first day. 63. Their fathers brought them. Their brothers walked them to the door, and they sat in those bright classrooms with pencils in their hands and hope in their eyes, and I stood there watching and I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I cried like a child. The teacher we hired, her name is Parisa. She's incredible. She's young, maybe 25, but she's fierce. She grew up in a refugee camp just like Amina. She taught herself to read using old newspapers and donated books. And now she's teaching these girls. She's giving them the tools to build different lives, better lives. I got another letter from Amina. She's still in Pakistan, but she's doing better. The NGO helped her get a small loan to start a tailoring business in the camp. She's making clothes for other refugees. She says it gives her purpose. She says Sonny would be proud of her. She asked me if I'd visited his grave. I told her I hadn't, that I didn't know where he was buried. She told me he's buried in a small cemetery on the outskirts of the village where he lived. She described the location. She said if I ever went there, I should tell him she loves him, that she'll see him again someday. I haven't been there yet. I don't know if I can, but I think about it. I think maybe before I leave, I'll go. I'll bring flowers. I'll tell him what his mother said. I'll tell him I'm sorry. And maybe I'll tell him about the school, about Tarek, about the 63 girls who get to learn because people like him reminded people like me why we have to keep trying. I don't know when I'm coming home, maybe not for a while. There's talk of building another school in a neighboring village. They want me to stay on, help with the project. I think I will. I think this is where I'm supposed to be right now. Thank you for listening, Father. Thank you for being there that night when I didn't know where else to go. You saved my life. I hope you know that. Daniel. I read that letter 3 times before I put it away, and I wept, not from sadness, but from something else, something I can only describe as witnessing grace in action, watching a man who'd been shattered piece himself back together, not by forgetting, but by transforming his pain into purpose. The 4th letter came in June. Father John, I went to Sonny's grave. It took me 3 hours to find it. The cemetery is overgrown, unmarked except for small piles of stones that indicate where bodies are buried. Hamid came with me. He knew the area. He helped me search. And finally we found it. A small mound of earth with a single stone at the head. No name, no date, just a stone. I knelt there for a long time. I didn't know what to say at first, but then I just started talking. I told Sonny about his mother, about how strong she is, how she's surviving. I told him about the school, about Tarek, about all the children who are learning and growing and becoming. I told him I was sorry for all of it. Sorry that the world failed him, sorry that I couldn't save him. And then I did something I didn't plan to do. I sang. There's a hymn we used to sing at Mass when I was a kid. Be not afraid. I don't know why it came to me in that moment, but it did, so I sang it, quietly, my voice cracking on every other word, and when I finished I felt lighter, like I'd set something down that I'd been carrying for years. Hamid asked me what the song meant. I tried to explain it. I told him it was about not being afraid because God is with us. He nodded, and then he said something I'll never forget. He said, "We have a saying here. The night is darkest before the dawn, but the dawn always comes." I think about that a lot now, about how the darkest moments aren't the end. They're just the threshold. And if we can survive them, if we can push through them, there's light waiting on the other side. I'm coming home in August, not permanently, just for a visit. I promised Angela and Lucia I'd come to Lucia's birthday party, and I want to see you, Father. I want to sit in that church again. I want to tell you everything, face to face. I'll see you soon. Daniel. August arrived with heat and humidity that made the church feel like an oven. I just finished setting up for evening mass when I heard the door open. I turned, and there he was. Daniel. But he looked different, taller somehow, broader. His face was tanned and weathered from months in the Afghan sun. His hair was longer, and his eyes were clear, not haunted, not hollow, just clear. He walked down the aisle and I met him halfway. We embraced, a long, tight embrace, the kind that doesn't need words. When we pulled apart, he was smiling. "It's good to see you, Father," he said. "It's good to see you too," I replied. "You look well." "I feel well," he said. "For the first time in a long time, I actually feel well." We sat in the front pew and he told me everything. About the school, about Tarek, about Parisa and Hamid and the 63 girls, about Amina's tailoring business, about Sonny's grave. He spoke for over an hour and I listened, absorbing every word, every detail, every small miracle. When he finished, he looked at me and said, "I don't think I'm broken anymore, Father. I think I'm healing." Not healed, but healing, and that's enough. I nodded. "That's more than enough," I said. "That's everything." He stayed for Mass that evening. He took communion, and when it was over, he came to me one last time. "I'm going back," he said, "in 2 weeks. There's a new school to build, and I want to be part of it, but I wanted to come here first, to thank you, to close this chapter properly." "You don't need to thank me," I said. You did the work, I just witnessed it." "Still," he said, "thank you." He left that night, and I stood in the empty church, watching the candles flicker, feeling the presence of something sacred lingering in the air. I never saw Daniel again, but I still hear from him. Letters come every few months, updates on the schools, on Tarek, on Amina, on Angela and Lucia. He's building a life out of the ruins of his past, and in doing so, he's building lives for others. That's what redemption looks like. Not a single moment of absolution, but 1,000 small acts of love. 2 years have passed since Daniel left my church that August evening. 2 years of letters arriving in thin, worn envelopes. 2 years of updates about schools and children and small victories in places most people will never see. 2 years of watching from a distance as a broken man continued to rebuild himself and his world, one brick at a time. But the letter that arrived last month was different. I knew it the moment I saw the envelope. It was thicker than usual, heavier, and the handwriting on the front, Daniel's careful, measured script, seemed more deliberate somehow, more final. I sat down at my desk, opened it slowly, and began to read. "Father John, I'm writing this from a hospital in Kabul. Don't worry, I'm okay, mostly. There was an incident 3 weeks ago. A remnant Taliban cell attacked one of our school sites. We weren't the target, but we were close enough to get caught in the crossfire. I took shrapnel in my leg and shoulder. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to ground me for a while. I'm telling you this not to worry you, but because it's forced me to do something I've been avoiding. It's forced me to stop, to sit still, to think about everything that's happened over these past few years. And I realized I need to tell you the rest of the story. The part I haven't written about yet. The part I wasn't ready to face until now. Do you remember when I told you about Rashid? About how I found out he'd become a shopkeeper? How I said I felt empty when I learned that? I lied. I didn't feel empty. I felt rage. Pure, white-hot rage. Because Martinez was dead and Sonny was dead and Rashid got to keep living. He got to keep running his shop and raising his children and existing in the world like nothing had happened. And that felt wrong. It felt cosmically unjust. So I did something I'm not proud of. 6 months after I arrived in Afghanistan to build the schools, I went to his village. I didn't tell anyone, I just went. I told myself I wanted to see him, to confirm he was really there, to confirm he'd really changed. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was I wanted to confront him, maybe hurt him, maybe worse. I hadn't decided yet. I found his shop easily. It was exactly like my contact described, a small storefront on a dusty street selling grain and tools and cloth. I watched him from across the road for over an hour. He looked older than I remembered, thinner, grayer. He moved slowly, like his body hurt, like he was carrying his own weight. I was about to cross the street, about to walk in there and do something I couldn't take back when I saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 years old. She came running out of the back of the shop, laughing, holding a piece of bread. She threw her arms around Rashid's legs and he picked her up and spun her around. And she laughed harder. That pure, unself-conscious laugh children have before the world teaches them to be afraid. And I froze. Because I realized that if I walked in there, if I hurt him, I wouldn't just be hurting Rashid. I'd be destroying her. I'd be taking her father the same way someone took Sonny from Amina. I'd be perpetuating the exact cycle I came here to break. So I turned around and I walked away. But the rage didn't leave. It stayed with me for months, burning in my chest every time I saw Tarek, every time I received a letter from Angela, every time I thought about Martinez's empty grave in California. It poisoned everything. I started drinking. Not a lot, just enough to numb the edges, enough to sleep without dreaming. The other aid workers noticed. Parisa noticed. She pulled me aside one day and asked me what was wrong, and I told her. I told her everything about Rashid, about the girl, about how I'd walked away but couldn't let it go. And you know what she said. She said, "Good, you walked away. That means you're stronger than your anger. Now you have to finish the work." I asked her what that meant. She said, "Forgiveness isn't something you give once. It's something you choose every day, every hour, every moment the anger comes back. You have to choose it again, until one day you don't have to choose anymore. It just is." So I tried. I chose it every morning when I woke up. I chose it every time I drove past Rashid's village. I chose it every time I thought about Martinez. And slowly, so slowly I didn't even notice at first, the rage started to fade. Not disappear, but fade. And then 2 months ago, something happened. I was at the market in Kandahar buying supplies for the new school, and I saw him, Rashid. He was there with his daughter, the same little girl buying vegetables. We were maybe 20 feet apart. Our eyes met. He recognized me. I could see it in his face. The fear, the confusion, the preparation to run or fight or beg. But I didn't move. I just stood there. And then I did something I didn't plan. I nodded. Just a small nod, an acknowledgement, and after a long moment he nodded back. We didn't speak. We didn't approach each other. We just stood there in that crowded market, two men who'd been caught in the machinery of war, and we acknowledged each other's existence, each other's humanity. And then we went our separate ways. Father, I can't explain why, but that moment changed something in me. It was like a door I'd been holding shut finally opened, and on the other side wasn't rage or revenge or justice. It was just release, permission to let go, permission to stop carrying something that was never mine to carry in the first place. I went to Sonny's grave the next day. I brought flowers this time, wildflowers I picked from the field near our school, and I told him I forgave everyone, including myself. 3 weeks later, the attack happened. And when I was lying there in the dirt, bleeding, waiting for the medics, I didn't think about dying. I didn't think about what I'd left undone. I thought about all the things I'd gotten to do, the schools we built, the children we taught, the letters from Amina saying she was proud of me, the videos Angela sent of Lucia learning to read, all of it. And I felt grateful. Not glad I'd been shot, but grateful I'd lived long enough to become someone worth saving. The doctors say I'll recover fully. I'll have scars, but I'll be fine. And when I'm healed, I'm going back to the school, back to Tariq and Parisa and Hamid and all the rest, because that's my life now. That's who I am. But I wanted you to know the whole story, Father, not just the parts that made me look good, but the ugly parts too. The parts where I almost became the thing I hated, because I think that's what confession really is. Not just admitting what we've done, but admitting what we're capable of doing, and choosing every day not to do it. I don't know if I'll ever make it back to your church. Life here is unpredictable, but if I don't, I want you to know that night, that first night when I stumbled in at 2 in the morning, you gave me something I didn't know I needed. You gave me permission to be human, to be broken and angry and lost and still worthy of grace. And I've tried to pass that on, to Tariq, to the girls in our schools, to everyone I meet. I've tried to show them that no matter how dark it gets, there's always a way forward, always a choice to build instead of destroy. Thank you, Father John, for everything. With gratitude and love. Daniel. I set the letter down and sat there in the silence of my office. Outside, I could hear the sounds of the city cars honking, people talking, the distant wail of a siren. Inside, there was only the soft tick of the clock on the wall and the weight of everything Daniel had shared. I thought about him lying in that hospital bed in Kabul, writing this letter with shrapnel wounds still healing in his body. I thought about the journey he'd taken from that first night, drowning in guilt and rage to now, to this place of hard-won peace. And I realized something. Daniel didn't need me to absolve him. He never did. What he needed was someone to bear witness, someone to stand in the darkness with him and say, "I see you, I hear you, and you're not alone." That's what we all need, really. Not answers, not solutions, just someone willing to sit with us in our pain and not look away. I've been a priest for 32 years. I've heard thousands of confessions, thousands of stories of sin and sorrow and suffering, and I've learned that the human capacity for both destruction and redemption is limitless. We can break each other in ways that seem irreparable, but we can also heal each other. We can build on top of ruins. We can transform our deepest wounds into our greatest gifts. Daniel taught me that. He came to me broken, and through his own courage and determination, he made himself whole. Not by forgetting what happened, not by pretending the pain didn't exist, but by choosing every single day to turn his suffering into something meaningful. That's the lesson I want to leave you with. That's what I hope you take from this story. You might be carrying something heavy right now, something you think will destroy you. Guilt, grief, rage, shame. Something that wakes you up at 3 in the morning and won't let you sleep. Something that follows you through your days like a shadow. And I can't tell you it will be easy to carry. I can't promise it won't hurt. But I can tell you this, you don't have to carry it alone, and you don't have to let it define you. You can take that weight and transform it. You can build schools on the graves of your grief. You can turn your rage into compassion. You can forgive the unforgivable, not because it's deserved, but because you deserve to be free. It won't happen all at once. It will take time. It will take work. It will take choosing over and over again to move toward light instead of darkness. But it's possible. Daniel proved it's possible. I still pray for him every night. I pray for his safety. I pray for the children in his schools. I pray for Amina and Angela and Lucia and all the others whose lives he's touched. And I pray that wherever he is, whatever he's doing, he knows that he matters, that his life means something, that his story isn't over yet. Because none of our stories are over, not while we're still breathing, not while we still have the choice to do better, to be better, to build instead of break. So if you're listening to this, wherever you are, whatever you're carrying, know this. You're not alone. You're not beyond redemption. And there's always a way forward. You just have to take the first step. And then the next. And then the next. Until one day, you look back and realize how far you've come. That's my prayer for you. That's my prayer for all of us. May we find the courage to face our darkness. May we find the strength to choose light. And may we never forget that even in our deepest brokenness, we are still worthy of grace. God bless you. And thank you for walking this journey with me.